All right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing? Not this morning, not this afternoon. How the hell is everybody? So, not too shabby, huh? You win nine, you lose four, then you win four, right? So then do we just start it over again with another nine? If we go nine, four, and then with four, we that's 13, 2, and 2. So if we did that the rest of the way, no, the rest of the if we did that the rest of the way, we'd have the President's Trophy. We don't want that. We don't want anything to do with that. So happy Sunday morning to everybody. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to get on in here. This one might not quite be an hour. This one might be more like 45 minutes. I got things I need to tend to. Colin and I are going to be live from like 3 till who the hell knows when, whenever the second game is over. And we're streaming both the AFC and NFC championship games, and I got something in my eye. Hey, James, Christian, how you guys doing? Yeah, Fluffy is laying in front of me. He's it's raining again. It's raining again. It's raining and schmutzy and foggy. And back when he was young and spry, he would want to run around and bark at everything in this weather. But not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. Now he just kind of wants to he wants to be inside. So it's a little bit more work. So let's see. How you doing, Damien? Do I think we need any trades or another piece? Hold on a second. Let me crack this window here a little bit. This room is stuffy. Oh, okay. All right. Like I've said in multiple videos, the only spot that I think that we would even need to consider an upgrade on is that right wing spot next to Lundell and Luosterainen. Colin saying Sam Iskevich to say, I don't think he's going to. And I don't disagree with you, by the way, but I get the dilemma. I think on almost, like I said last night, at least half of the teams in the NHL, if Sam Iskevich was on a team that was not in a cup now mode, he would likely get an opportunity similar to what Tippett did. He played 40-something games in that President's Trophy season. He was kind of up and down, in and out of the lineup, but he would continually get opportunities to play. But I don't think that we kind of were in cup now mode towards the end there, obviously, with all the trades and everything that we made. But of course, one of those trades that we made was to trade away Tippett. So there's that. So I don't think Sam Iskevich is going to stay. I do think, though, that we'll see him again probably when we get to adding players to the roster for the playoffs. I would be surprised if he was not one of the guys, because everybody else we have depth-wise is kind of grinder, right? He's a guy that can give you a little bit of driving of the play, make some assists. And look, he drew the penalty that got us the second goal last night. Is that going to be enough for Maurice to keep him up? I don't know. If it wasn't the All-Star break and we were just going to continue to play games, I think he'd still be in. But I have a suspicion they're going to send him back down and then we won't see him again. I hope I'm wrong. But James says, I haven't noticed Sam Iskevich in the past few games, although I give him a pass on the one due to the PKs. Well, I would agree with you until he drew that. He did draw that penalty yesterday. Remember, he drew the tripping penalty in the third period. That was the power play where we scored that second goal. So, but I mean, there's good and bad to that, right? Has he been tearing it up offensively? No. But if you don't notice him, he's also not making defensive mistakes too, right? Or at least none that are costing us. So I'd love to see him get a chance, but I have a feeling that you're going to see Nick Cousins back in that spot when we come back from the All-Star break. And then, depending on injuries and whatnot, I do believe that he'll be the first man up nowadays. Like if Lundell was to get nicked or some Luosterainen or somebody was to get nicked, I think you would see him come up. But being that he needs to play games, I wouldn't be shocked at all if whenever the news comes that he gets loaned back to the AHL. Cam says Rhino 8.5 by 8. Yeah. I don't understand what's taking so long. You're not wrong there. Look, the way I've been putting it is, okay, you know that basically let's start at 8 million, right? You're not going to give him more to Tkachuk. That's 9.5. How long can it take to bridge the gap between 8 and 9.5 million? Hey, Pepper, thank you, Pepper, thank you. Yeah, right to that point. Says, hi, Jaws. Why haven't they signed Reinhart yet? I'm not worried. Look, there's so many things in play. There really, really is with Zito, and I know that it sounds like it shouldn't be. Hey, Sean, you too, Boulevard. Good morning. Wouldn't it be peak Panthers to trade Spencer Knight and watch him turn into the next Martin Brodeur? I mean, Bob ain't giving up the net anytime soon, right? You know what I mean? Bubba's not giving up the net. Hey, Bubba. But in terms of Reinhart, I'm not really worried. I know they're going to get something done. But again, this year, Reinhart, Montour, Forsling, Cousins is on an expiring contract. Lomberg's on an expiring contract. Gadjevich doesn't have a contract. Stenlund doesn't have a contract. OEL doesn't have a contract. So all of those players, the extra 100,000 here, 100,000 there, 150,000 here, so whether or not we give Reinhart, 8.75 or 9 million could have an effect. And then next year, Ekblad, Bennett, and Verhaeghe start coming up for deals, right? So, I mean, I understand it from Zito's point of view, where every $100,000 right now we need it. So, no, Bubba, we're gonna have shows all week. We're gonna have shows all week. Don't worry about that. I says my sources say Reinhart is holding out. He wants to be able to go on the podcast whenever he wants, including Kyle's post-game show. Oh man, hope Reinhart doesn't take all the money. No, I don't think that that's going to happen. But when you get to it, when you look at all the players, you can't keep everybody. I think I said this a little bit yesterday. Hey, Jackson, Raven, how you doing, bud? When you look at it collectively over 2 seasons, right? Reinhart, Forsling, Montour, Lundell, Ekblad, Verhaeghe, Bennett, Stenlund, OEL, and Lomberg. Just those 10 guys in between this offseason and next offseason. And there's more in there too, right? There's more guys in there. So, I mean, he's got to have like this massive bulletin board of, if you give this guy an extra $100,000, the 2 years from now, you won't be able to give this guy his money. So it's right. And exactly, guys, Forsling, right? I mean, we just kind of say Forsling, Montour, but I mean, so out of those 10 guys, me personally, obviously, I'm not the GM, but if I was, Spencer Knight and Ekblad those are the guys. If you can move Ekblad, you solve all the problems, and you get to keep Spencer Knight. But how long are you going to keep a $4.5 million goaltender in the AHL in your back pocket? Because remember, we're getting $1.15 million of salary cap relief with him in the AHL. So if we bring him up next year, obviously that would mean we're not keeping Stolars, which I would kind of like to keep. But if we don't, and you bring Knight up next year, that's an extra $1.15 million that's going to go back onto the cap that way. So I understand why it's taking so long. I say, how long can it take? How hard can it be to bridge the gap between 8 and 9.5 million? But then he scores a goal every game. He scores a goal every game, right? Hi, CG. I says I wouldn't mind losing Montour. He's been off. Here's what I'll say about Montour and Ekblad. Okay. I'm going to use Tippett as an example. So hear me out. All right. All people want to say while I was making the recaps and doing the reviews, and I'm like, Tippett's going to be the guy. He's that guy. I can see it. I can see it. All anybody wanted to really look at was in that moment, in that taking a picture of the moment. Well, he can't finish right now. He can't finish right now. Okay, take that, put it over here. Now, with Ekblad and Montour, Ekblad had a ceiling, and then the injuries have knocked down that ceiling. Now, every time we see Ekblad start to play better and a little bit better, we start to realize that those games where he's looking a little bit better, that might be his ceiling now. And then he'll go back to kind of how he's been the last few games, which is he gets out of position and takes penalties. I don't know what Ekblad's ceiling is anymore. The good games that we've seen this year might be it because of the injuries. With Montour, physically, he's the same dude, okay? He's playing the same way. Now, whether it's a product of him still getting that shoulder in shape, a little bit of bad luck. I mean, look at how bad it was for Tkachuk for a while. If you get rid of Ekblad, he's going to go somewhere else. He's still going to be what he is right now, which is, maybe a second pairing defenseman. Montour, however, it's when that light turns back on, he still has all of his physical ability. And I think that we would regret losing Montour more than we would regret losing Ekblad when it all came down to it. Because Montour is he's still got his speed. He's still skating up to the blue line. He's still taking his shots. They're just not going in the way that they were. But that a lot of times you can find that you can bridge the gap, right? It's not always going to be 73 points, right? Okay. But he's nowhere near as bad as it's looking right now. I think there's a lot of room to improve there with Montour. I think that will come where with Ekblad, I think this is the dude. I think he's going to have some ways where he looks like he's playing better and then like the last 3 games. So, and OEL, OEL. Oh, but we got to sign him. He's only got the one, you know what I mean? He's going to need a deal. He's going to need a raise. So I would want Bill Zito's job, but I wouldn't want it, right? Mike says Zito will find a way to keep everyone. I mean, the numbers are there, but everybody has to be willing to take less money. What really dinged us is the Spencer Knight thing. And I don't blame Zito because when he gave Spencer Knight that money, Bob looked like he was on the outskis, and Spencer Knight looked like he was gonna be the guy. So I don't blame him for giving him that money, but that's the contract that's kind of hamstrung us a little bit because not a lot of people, I don't think anybody has a $4.5 million AHL goalie that you don't really know what to do with, and Bob just keeps getting better. So, at worst, what are you going to do? You bring Knight up and split the games with them 40-40, whatever. Maybe, but that's a lot of money at goaltending. I don't think, no, Trey. No. 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 Right, Eyes. Yeah, they were scared Knight would get an offer sheet. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Yep. Hey, Trey. Go on, Trey. No, Bubba. We're not trading Bubba. Not trading Bubba. Or were you talking to Bob? Oh, no. I see. This team stinks. Go away, Trey, for a price, Bob. Trey, I thought you were talking about, I didn't see the above conversation. I thought you were saying to trade Bob for a price. That's what I thought you were saying. Your whole 10 million to go away. Yeah, okay. I get it. But yeah, look, once the first domino falls, then we'll know. But Mike, in terms of Zito finding a way to keep everybody, and yeah, imagine a Leaf fan reaction if Rhino signs for under 10 million. Dangle said he'd go full Joker. What if he signs under 9 million? They're not going to give him more than Tkachuk. Just at worst, he's going to get the same deal as Tkachuk, right? Bubba says, I have a solution. Check what I said above about Dale Talon. All right, hold on a second. Let's see. Zito will just re-sign, and we'll get Dale Talon to re-sign Rhino Twitch. Zito will just resign, and we'll get Talon to sign Rhino to a 12/10 deal. If it was allowed to happen, he would do it, Bubba. Talon would do it. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Frank says, got to say, Knight is gathering a lot of attention from Colorado and New Jersey. Colorado, yes. New Jersey, no. In other words, if you're going to move them, you move them to the Western Conference. The only time you want that coming back to bite you in the ass is if it's in the Stanley Cup final, right? That's what I would say. All right, let's see. Bull versus, let me say this. You trade some all AHL players that are not ready for Nick Robertson and maybe just another random player. I mean, maybe. You know, I don't know how many assets Zito really wants to trade right now. We don't have a lot of assets. You can't trade Samoskevich, and you better really not trade Sordev. I really don't think we should trade either one. And don't forget, you know, Grayson Sachin. We've got some guys that are coming up here. Eventually, the team is going to have to play some homegrown talent. You can't just find guys off the street and free agents and trades all day, every day, because eventually you have to pay those players. I mean, look at Tippett, man. 8 times 6.2, eh? I wonder what he would have gotten here, right? There's no way we could give him that contract here. No, I managed to get Kyle. Kyle's awake. Hey, Meadow, first time in a stream. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, Colin, we're all Raven fans today. Ain't that the joke? Dale Talon ruining this franchise one player at a time. You know, Bubba, you know what I didn't realize? I didn't realize it because it was such a chaotic time, but it was actually Tom Rowe. I didn't realize it at the time. I should have, but I always think of it as Talon and Zito, and I forget the whole Tom Rowe thing, right? I like to block that out of my mind. But it was actually Rowe that moved Krause out for Bolin. Another big mistake. Let's see. James says, I feel like the Panthers could convince Knight to be traded for an opportunity in the AHL. That's why we couldn't keep Lyon. Well, he doesn't have a no-move clause. So, I mean, we can do anything we want with him, really. We wouldn't want to send him, I mean, no offense, Spencer, but, I mean, if San Jose comes calling with enough first-round picks, right? Yeah, Mike, Reinhart knows what's on the other side. Bennett knows. They both saw Gudas take the money. Gudas was playing in the Cup final. Now he's playing pickup sticks. Yep. I mean, I look, you're not wrong. The money will be there, but you gotta talk guys like Montour into 5, Forsling, 5, and 5 might even be a little bit high for what we can afford, right? But Mike, when you say keep everybody, what about Ekblad? I mean, that's the biggest thing there, right? If Zito knows he's going to move on from Ekblad, then everybody can get money. But are you thinking he's gonna re-sign Ekblad? Because if we don't, then there's no big push. There's no big worry. Hardware says, I don't think we're keeping Montour. He's playing down this year, right? Right. Yeah, trade our first round pick from 2035, right? No, Forsling won't be gone. Montour will be, not Forsling. Yeah, Forsling's not going. No, CG Kyle he's getting ready to make pancakes. Hey, Frank, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, buddy. He says Reinhardt's not going to sign now. Look what happened to Nylander. Got his money and is a ghost now. Zito knows what he's doing. He has to sign somebody. I mean, that's if you believe what we've been told, and we haven't been told a lot, but there's been whispers in the hockey media basically that they stopped negotiating with Montour and Forsling, and now we hear that the Reinhart contract is quick, is soon. They might have been waiting for Nylander to sign, but that contract that there's no way we can do anything close to that. So, I mean, they've got to get these guys. He's got to sign Reinhart to know whether or not if he's going to move on from Montour or not. Lewis, is it the real Bubba in the chat? No, I wish. Actually, I don't know. I don't want to insult Bubba. It could be. He seems to be really active on days when Stolarz isn't net. Trey says, if Tippett was still here, we would definitely be trading Ekblad this summer and making a choice between Tippett and Montour, and I would choose Tippett. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, no, Bubba says it is. Bubba, it's the real Bubba. All right, I'm scrolling down because I missed a bunch, so I'm going to start from the bottom up. I says, Cole Schwindt, the prospect in the Hubie trade, made his debut in Calgary. No points so far. I wonder who scores first, him or Sam Miskevich. Hey, Bubba, I hope it is you, Bubba. Yeah, what's funny about that, Eyes, is that in the video where I predicted the Tkachuk trade, the video before that, I made a video about which AHL player I thought was the most likely to make the Panthers that year, and it was Cole Schwindt. So not only did Zito listen to the video where I told him what 4 pieces to send, but then he watched the video I made before that, and he figured, well, since Jaws thinks Cole Schwindt is our best prospect, we'll throw him in the deal. I like that kid. I literally made the video this same week that I figured he would be a guy that would be making the team. He would be the AHL guy that had the best chance to make the team. And Zito said, all right, sounds good. Those are the guys that go. Harwood, that's not accurate at all. In terms of the young goalies in the system, we do. We've got number one, we've got Weber. And from all accounts that I've heard, and remember, this is just me hearing stuff. I'm not pretending to know these things, but what people tell me is that this kid Weber, I think that's how you pronounce it, Waeber, I think that's it. I've heard from multiple people that think he's going to be better than Spencer Knight. And we have this whole goalie excellence department where they're drafting a goalie every year, and Luongo works with the scouts, and they're going to be drafting one every year to have a pipeline of goalies. So, and it's not about giving up on Knight. And in terms of Bob getting long in the tooth, he's getting better with age. And if you look at Luongo up into the last season, after when that hip gave out on him, remember, Bob has, knock on wood, Bob has been healthy. Luongo's had that hip issue. But if you look at Luongo's numbers at 37, 38, I think it was, I mean, they were if Bob had those kind of numbers, they would just give us the cup and they wouldn't even play the season. So I'm of the opinion you give Bob an extra 2x5 and you move Spencer Knight. But what do I know? I said Bob put a clause in the contract to be able to be in the chat. I like it. Okay, scrolling down, I missed a lot. Here we go. I says Carlson has 12 goals this year, so there's been no drop off. I don't know. We've waived them twice. No other team has taken them. And we've seen him play defense. He was solid at worst. I don't know what it is with that kid, but nobody wants him. Nobody wants him. No, I don't understand it. That thing with Carlson, and if anybody knows, they're keeping it a secret, because like the couple of times I asked Randy, and he didn't really have much of an answer. So I don't know if the guy's got bad breath or what, but we waived him last year and this year, and just nobody wants to take him. Kenneth says, I guess this is a better answer to your question from last night. I don't know if that was me or somebody else said something, but that's good. Ban Great White. What a Great White said. He said 2 days ago that he's never played hockey. Is being a goalie playing hockey, or are you being a goalie? Like if you've only ever played goalie Have you played hockey or are you just a goalie? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that's another thing Praga says. I think Reinhart is smart enough to see what happened with Hubertud, right? Right? Bubba. Praga says when Carlson was up, there were times when the opponent's forwards just skated right around him. I mean, that was a few years ago. It's just, I mean, if the guy has got that much offensive ability and he's that bad at defense, make him move forward, right? Hey, Harvard, thank you, buddy. Thank you, Harvard. Thank you. He says, I think we all saw how important Barkley is. When he was injured, we were getting killed, especially shorthanded. Especially, yes. And the power play, too. I mean, forget the regular part. The power play without Barkov, it was, I think they put Bennett in that spot, and it was not. It just was not. All of the knots. And on the PK as well, too. No, this team, look, I mean, we could survive without, I don't want anybody to get hurt, but without Barkov, he's the plug in the boat. We'll put it that way. We could be a luxury yacht, but Barkov is the plug. I don't care how nice the yacht is. If you pull out the plug, you might be able to stay afloat for a little while, but eventually you're going to go down. You have a problem. I am the real Bob. Kenneth says, "Oh, who can we afford to have Bob back up next year?" Yeah, it's one big Jenga pile. I mean, it really is. Because, like I said, it's not just this year; it's next. I mean, look, the choices this year are almost easier than next year, right? Reinhart, Forsling, or Montour. I think we all agree in order: Reinhart, then Forsling, then Montour. Okay. Next year, Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Ekblad. I think we'd all be okay with moving on from Ekblad, which would probably give us the money for Verhaeghe and Bennett, but that's the only way. That's the only way because Verhaeghe's going to get paid, right? And as long as Tkachuk is on the team, you're going to want Bennett on the team. That's 2 years in a row we got this. All right, scrolling back down to the bottom again. Yeah, exactly, Jesse. We have the same script every game, up to 2-1. I'm not. By the way, I'm not concerned about the fact that we've given up a couple of leads there late in the game. That it's going to happen as we're playing these teams that are desperate for points. All right, just remember us last year and how we're going to play if we're down 2-1 in the last few minutes, and how many times we came from behind, tied the game, get a point. You know what I mean? The script is different now. We're the team that we're fine in the playoffs, and other teams are going to be desperate. So there's going to be more of those late game things there where they get the tie. I'm not overly concerned about it. Braga. No, I know that the salary cap is going up. It's going up for this year, which helps. It helps, but Verhaeghe and Bennett are only making like 4.1 a piece. So, like, I mean, you're gonna need, even if both of those guys took 7, like if you could get Bennett for 6, but then Verhaeghe's gonna want more than 7. The point there is that you're gonna need probably an extra $6-7 million in cap space just for those two guys. It's not like with Reinhart, he's already making 6.5. So if you give him 8.5, it's just a $2 million raise. You might be able to get away with giving Bennett a $2 million raise, but not Verhaeghe. I don't think you're getting Verhaeghe for 6. Again, unless, to what Mike and I were talking about, unless everybody says, I'll take less so we can keep the group together. And it might happen. If it was ever going to happen, it happened here in Florida because, well, they're in Florida, because no taxes, the lifestyle, the whole thing. If there was ever going to be a group of guys that all said, you know what, you take 2 less, I'll take 2 less, you take 1.5 less, Reinhart, you got to take like 4 less. But if everybody takes less, everybody gets to stay, except Ekblad. Maybe Ekblad going to have to take a pay cut Okay. Ekblad, you sign if he wants to retire in Florida, you give him like a 5x5 and you go get another pairing guy for Forsling. Have I seen the news about Jack Devine? Says Panthers prospect leading the NCAA with his goals and a 7th rounder. I have not seen that. No. Mike, everybody says that every year. That's what everybody told me about Owen Tippett. That's the discussion, Mike. You know what I mean? You can't look at it 1 year at a time because everything is related to everything else. We're in this position because we traded Owen Tippett, because we signed Dave Bowen to a stupid contract, so we had to throw away Lawson Krause. See, it all adds up. It's I love your brother, but I could not disagree more with that point. I think if you look at it just 1 year at a time, that's how you get yourself into trouble, by trading away first-round picks and Owen Tippett for Claude Giroux as a rental. And it's just us talking anyway. I mean, I know Zito listens, but I have the complete opposite opinion. I think you have to look forward as to what is coming. Case in point, the Spencer Knight contract, $4.5 million. You know what I mean? Sometimes it looks good in the moment, but you got to think about what's coming on down the road. If you give guys the extra $500,000 here, you know what I mean? That stuff adds up quick, and then you don't have money in the end to keep a guy like we had to get rid of Marchment, right? Because we couldn't afford a $4 million contract. Who did we lose last year? Well, Gudis wanted to go get the money anyway, but it all adds up over time, in my opinion. All right, scrolling down to the bottom here. Yeah. The Keith Yandel 1.2 comes off, right? All right. Vincent. When are they going to trade Carlson, Kiersted, Sordiff? No. I don't want to trade Sordiff. No. Carlson, how we trade him with what? We've waived them twice. Nobody took him. Kiersted's is a tradable asset. You know what I mean? But with Carlson, what could I mean? I guess if you package Sordiff and Carlson together, if you're going to get like a third line guy, but I don't really want to give up on Sordiff. I don't want to give up on these guys. You know what I mean? If Zito manages to sign everybody, but we still have that spot. I mean, realistically, the way I look at it is that spot next to Lundell. Lundell's going to be locked up. Luosterainen's locked up, right? So to me, the way I look at it is like Samoskevich is the long-term guy on that line, and that'll be the line together. So I could see where you might say, okay, we're not going to really have room for Sordiff, move on from them. Okay. But anybody that you're getting now is a rental. And I'm just scarred. You know what I mean? I'm just scarred from the Owen Tippett thing, man. And I know that, we kind of saw Tippett could play. That actually makes it worse because we kind of saw Tippett could play before we moved him. I'm scarred from trading him away, and now I'm like, I want to hang on to our guys. You know what I mean? I really, at least for another year. Because to be honest with you, when they had their games at the beginning of the season with Samoskevich and Sordiff, I thought Sordiff was better. And I like Samoskevich, but I thought Sordiff looked even a little bit more ready. But I guess somebody told me he's suspended right now. I appreciate that, CG. See, where I get CJ from? I don't know. Thank you, bud. I appreciate that. Braga says my take is Carlson and Kiersted will end up on their own in Europe like Heponiemi. Yeah. Tippett trade got us our first playoff round in a billion years. We don't trade him. That doesn't happen. We don't get killed by the Bolts and learn a valuable lesson. TK. I don't know. We can't know that. We can't know that. We can't know how that all would have happened, right? I understand what you're saying, Mike, but I always say in my MJ, hey brother. All right. I'm gonna put that on hold. Hold on a second. Let me just find my earplug, MJ. I only got one good ear. All right. Okay. Okay. Hey, MJ.
Hey, Jaws, good to see you.
How you doing, brother? You look good. I like the hat.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got this gear a few days ago, by the way.
Is that right? Now I think I have
Yeah,
the same. Let me see that. Lean the hat forward.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I might have the same one hanging up there. I might have
Really?
the same. Yeah, I think. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Oh boy.
Stay, folks. Stay.
Okay.
Stay.
Hey, Fluffy.
No, it's a Dolphins hat.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways,
No, yeah,
good
it's a
afternoon.
Dolphins hat. I have my Panther hat out there, but the one that was up on the top because I have the rack with all the jerseys hanging up, and it was it
Um,
was it was this one. It was the Dolphins hat. But
oh,
we won't
nice.
we won't talk about them. I'm mad at
No, no,
them.
no. That's
I'm mad at
not
them.
till next. Yeah, not till next season.
Right.
I was gonna say good afternoon. It's afternoon for you. It's actually still morning here in Chicago. So
Oh, now I'm really confused. It's afternoon and morning at the same time.
yeah. It's about 11:37 in the morning here. So
Jeez. Jeez.
yep, yeah. And
So
actually,
how go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say actually before I get into what I was gonna talk about, I don't know if I ever told you this story. I told this to Kyle, but I don't know if he told you. So I'm in Chicago and I grew up a Blackhawks fan, but I became a Panthers fan because I was down in South Florida a few years ago and I went to a Panther game. I remember it was the Panthers versus the Rangers. This was when Yager was still playing,
Oh wow.
and the Panthers won that game. I think the score was 3-1, and the Rats were flying on the ice, and I loved that so much that I just became a fan of the Panthers. And I told Kyle this. The Panthers are basically my Eastern Conference team. I mean, I grew up with the Blackhawks, and so they're
Right.
basically my Western Conference team. But
Yeah.
Panthers because of my experience down there, and I'm trying to get back to a game down there. I haven't been back there since 2019. COVID has complicated things, and I had stuff in my personal life. So hopefully, I can get back to a game. I don't know about. We'll see about this year. I mean, definitely, hopefully by next year. So.
Right. What are you getting snow? Because we're just getting rain. We're just getting schmutz here.
Yeah, it's interesting, or it's funny. We had a big snowstorm about 2.5 weeks ago, and I think we had about a foot and a half of snow here. It was just insane. And now, last I checked, when I woke up this morning, most of the snow is gone. It's about 30. Last I checked, about 38 degrees. It's supposed to be in the 40s, I think, later today, and then this week it'll be in the 40s. I think by the weekend it's going to be in the 50s, which is just insane for February.
Yeah,
Or
no,
well,
I
the
know.
start of February.
Yeah,
Later than
yeah.
like
We
that.
we had 70 degrees here. So 13-2 heading into the break,
Yep.
right? And and hopefully that's the worst that we get was that 4-game losing streak. And even then we got points in the 2 games. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yep.
Um give me an idea of what you think we're if you thought this is exactly where we would be, or if you were a little bit concerned, like at this point we'd still be chasing like we were last year.
I think we'd be chasing. Um, it's don't get me wrong. It's nice that we had this little winning streak. The back-to-back overtime wins. By the way, last night was fantastic, and the night before was great too. But I think I spoke with you or maybe Kyle about this before. Given the result of last season, when we were the runner-up, I was thinking that maybe they would struggle and maybe they would suffer the Stanley Cup final hangover effect, as I like to say, and
Yeah.
they would be kind of sluggish, going into the break. So it is nice, and it's nice that they've exceeded expectations. Now, what I wanted to talk with you today is that okay, it's great that they're winning, yes, and we are close to the top. I believe we're still behind Boston, right? Last I checked, we're second place in the division,
Right.
right? Yeah, so that's good. and we're got a good head of steam going into the break. Now, in terms of the second half of the season, it's gonna, if they win, fantastic, but if they win too much, that's where I would be concerned. And I say this because, I did a little bit of research on this. I mean, you look at teams like the 2019 or 2018-19 Lightning, and then, of course, the 2022-23 Bruins. I checked, or based on my research here, and if anybody in the chat wants to comment on this, that's fine. They went on a lot of winning streaks. They had a lot of winning in the second half of that season, and they won so much that they burned themselves out when the playoffs came, when the first round happened. And we know that as Panthers fans, we saw it when we faced the Bruins, and beat them in 7 last year. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, it's like, yes, have some winning in the second half of the season, and be consistent, and play the guys as much as you can, and don't burn them out and everything, but don't do it too much. Like, you want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I get, first of all, I get what you're saying from the perspective of, you definitely don't want the President's Trophy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, no President's Trophy. We don't want the President's Trophy curse. No, thank you.
No. And I think Trey says your walls look like his, because in the Dolphin reviews, there's nothing but.
I'm actually in the dining room here. I mean, my kitchen's off the side, but the dining room, I don't usually put anything up here. So, but thank you, Trey. Yeah.
I think that, and Kyle mentioned this last night in the stream, and I don't want to bring up the schedule right now, but when we come back, we're playing a lot of teams in the Metro in the second half of the year. If you notice, we haven't played a whole lot of Carolina, New Jersey. We only played Pittsburgh once. I don't even know if we played the Flyers yet. So we played the Rangers only once. So we're playing a lot of the teams in the Metro that are busy beating the crap out of each other, desperate for points, because those bottom 2 wild card spots, sometimes both teams are in the Atlantic, sometimes it's both in the Metro. They've been going back and forth. So I think you're going to see a lot of games like the last 2 games where the Panthers, I mean, look, they're never going to say it, right? The guys are never going to come out and give an interview and say, we're just kind of coasting to the playoffs here. They're never going to say that, but you can kind of see it, like the Pittsburgh game. We were sleepwalking in the beginning of that game. You know what I mean? I didn't think we looked all that good. And Pittsburgh is the one going, we need points. And they're the ones that were bringing the energy and the physicality. And the way I see us playing these last 2 games is we've got our abacus out in the locker room. And what we're trying to figure out is the exact minimum amount of effort that we can give on a nightly basis to still get points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Frank. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. He says, I agree with MJ. Some adversity would do these guys good, but we know what it takes now. We got the experience. Nothing comes easy. Yeah. Thank you, Frank. Thank you,
Frank. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same thing there. That I agree with Frank about, and what Kyle was talking about, is that you're not wrong. You don't want to, and I don't think we've peaked. I think every once in a while, we've seen this team, like during the 9-game streak, there was definitely some moments where we had some periods where we were like, there's the guy, there. Well, you know what I mean? And you see it on the ice. I've used this analogy before, but you can see it when they're in that groove. All 5 guys are moving as one unit. And the last, I mean, even in this, I know we've won 4 straight, but I'm sure the guys will be the first to tell you right now, they're not, they're just out there. They're just playing their game. They're not really, except for Bennett. He's always a maniac. But for the most part,
or Reinhart.
right. For the most part, I think because of who we're playing, right, and the fact that we have a lot of home games and we tend to play better on the road, mm-hmm. I think we'll have our fair share of 2 or 3 games in a row where they don't look so good, and then that'll perk them back up for a little bit. And so I would not worry about them peaking too soon. I would think with about 10 games, 15 games left. Well, actually, no. What I feel my opinion, would be, what do we got? 35 games left? 34? 33?
Well, there's 82 games in the season,
We
so you
played
figure about 40,
no,
35 to 40 somewhere.
we played 49. Yesterday was 49, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
then there's only 33 games. Jeez, there's only 33 games left.
Yeah,
So
that's about right. Yeah.
yeah. So in reality, if they spent another, they're going to get their break now. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out of the All-Star break flying high and and had a nice streak of maybe winning, 10 out of 15, and then kind of, you don't want to take the foot off the pedal too much. You know what I mean? But the
Right.
the other part, and then I'll let you have the mic back.
Sure.
You don't want to get into a situation like against Pittsburgh. Okay. We don't need the points. We want the points, but what we don't need to do is get into heavy duty physical battles against those teams right now and risk getting injured because things are getting out of hand. You know what I mean? And go ahead, I'll let you have your say.
Yeah, we were talking players a moment ago. Here's the thing about that. So I had also talked to Kyle about this on one of the streams, but I feel like, and this is just me, when we lock up a playoff spot, which will hopefully be, sooner rather than later, I think we need to give some of the backup guys, or like the third or fourth liners, maybe lower than that, give them some playing time just to give them some experience. And then the starters, you rest them, but don't rest them too much to where they get, rusty and out of sync. I think that's kind of because if you play the guys too much, or you give them too much rest, obviously they're not going to be ready for the playoffs. And the backup guys, the other thing is, if you play the backup guys too much and they get burned out, if something happens to the starters, later in the season or into the playoffs, the backup guys are not going to be ready. And I don't know if during the playoffs you can call guys up from the minor leagues or from Charlotte. I mean, I don't know how that works.
You can carry a roster into the playoffs. That's basically, you can add extra players, and you don't have the same salary cap limitations that way. I forget what they called it last year. Somebody in the chat will tell me what it was called last year. There was a squad, the Black Aces or something like that. I think, or something where it was a group of guys that were AHL and whatnot, and they traveled with the team. And then remember, that's when Denisenko ended up in after Kachuk got hurt against Vegas. Right.
Yeah.
So yes, players like Sam Miskevich, those guys, I would assume it was not the Black Panthers, Trey.
No, that's a different story. Yeah, no. Oh, Trey.
But it's funny. I think it was the Black Aces though, or the eight. What was it? The taxi
I know what
squad?
Yeah.
I know the taxi squad, but I think they called it something else last year. I'm not talking about like the COVID stuff. I'm talking about the players that they kept last year off of the as backups on the playoff roster.
Yeah.
I could have sworn it was something Aces.
I'll have to look that up. I'm not too familiar with that situation.
And Boulevard says Pink Panther is better.
Pink Panther. That was a good movie, by the way. I like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh no! Now don't start. The chat has gone off the rails. Now I can't even. the chat.
It's funny. I can't see the chat when I'm in the studio here. I can't see what people are saying. I'd be curious to see what people are here.
Oh, it's okay. It's Sunday morning. It is what it is, right?
One other thing,
Black Aces, right? Yeah, okay. Mike says Black Aces.
Yeah.
Here, Black Aces are the extra players added to a roster for a team's playoff run after their own season is over in the minor leagues or elsewhere. Okay, that's what it. Yeah, so it was. That's what I thought it was. The Black Aces. So that's what I'm talking about. Is that after the AHL season is over and everything like that, those kids can kind of travel with the team. And that's how Denisenko ended in. And I would assume guys like, Sam Miskevich, maybe even Sordif. But we've got so many guys now, in terms of, depth, especially on defense, that even the AHL guys like Carlson and Kierstead, I don't even know if, I mean, they might get to travel with the team, but we'd have to be pretty far down the depth pool now for those guys to see the ice. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I also think another thing I wanted to add here. I
yeah,
also think that if we start really struggling, like if we have like consecutive losses that are if we start losing a bunch of games, I think at that point we need to think about trading for somebody. If we're winning, we're fine. But if we're losing a bunch of games, I think it's time to consider who we're going to trade. And I know so many people talk about Owen Tippett. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not a fan of Owen Tippett. I've
I
watched
can't
him
hear
play.
you. I'm having trouble hearing you. What?
Oh, can you hear me? Hold on.
I'm being
You joking around?
I'm being a smart ass.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. I thought. Okay. All good. All good.
No, go
But
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
I don't mean to interrupt your point about my
it's like-
favorite player, Owen Tippett.
Yeah, I mean he's great, but in terms of Maurice's system or the lines and everything, I don't know. Like I'm not feeling excited about him. Like don't get me wrong, he's great and he's done great things for he's I'm sorry, he's with the Flyers right now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's done some good things for them, but for us, I don't know if he's really going to fit. I mean, I just don't. I think we should consider looking at somebody else. Who that is, I don't really know. I know that people in the chat have, thrown some names out there. Somebody mentioned, who was it? So one of the guys on the Sharks, not Duclair. It's not Duclair. I can't remember who it was they were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I forget the guy's name too, but I remember what you were talking about. There goes Trey with Corey Perry.
The Corey Perry thing, that's the thing. It's funny, and thank you, Trey, for bringing that up. It's well, first of all, I'm kind of surprised that he's back in the league. With everything that happened here in Chicago, people have been talking about it a lot. Here in Chicago about him and what happened, back in November and everything. I'm surprised he's back. I mean, and the fact that he's going to the Oilers, who are now on a 16-game winning streak.
Right.
I don't know. Like for me, okay, Corey Perry, okay, don't get me wrong, he's done so much for the league, and when he was in Anaheim, when I saw him play for the Ducks, he did so much for them and everything. But he's not the same Corey Perry today that he was, years ago. And I told this to Kyle, and I think I might have mentioned this to you as well. If he's on your team now, the chances of you having any postseason success are pretty small.
Yeah.
Now you may get to the conference finals, you may get to the cup final, but in terms of winning the whole thing, I say there's a 99.9% chance that you're not going to lift the cup.
Right.
And I hate to be, I'm sorry to be mean there, but I've noticed, I watch games, I see what's going on with him. And, when he was with Montreal, well, Dallas and then Montreal and then Tampa Bay. And when he was there, they didn't win the cup. So I'm glad we didn't get Corey Perry. I'm glad Zito decided to not sign him.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree there. There's some agreement and disagreement in the chat, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The way I look at it with the Owen Tippett stuff and any player in general, there's two sides to it. You know what I mean? There's you can't know either, and this, I was actually getting into this when you came on. This is actually a theory that I use in my coaching practice. You can't know what was going to happen because something else happened. In other words, if you're going down a road and you make a left-hand turn and something, quote, bad happens, and I should have turned right. I should have turned right. Well, just because something bad happened when you made a left-hand turn, that don't guarantee that something good was going to happen if you made a right-hand turn. And we tend to view things through this lens of, well, if I wouldn't have done this, then this would have happened. And we don't know. Why do we assume? Because if we made a decision and what we thought wasn't going to happen, or what we thought was going to happen didn't happen, and we got it wrong, if we got it wrong making that decision, why do we assume that the other decision was the right decision and it would have gone the way that we thought it was going to go? So in terms of like guys like Tippett, etc., when I say I don't want to make the mistake of trading away our guys again, is that, you can't know what Tippett would have been here. You can't know if he would have played well, better, worse. Maybe he's better in Philadelphia than he would have been here. You can't know. I mean, look at guys. I mean, guys get traded all over the place, all over the time, and they're completely different players. You think Tampa Bay knew Carter Verhaeghe was going to be a 40-goal scorer, and they just said, well, we just don't have room for the guy? No. Did Carter Verhaeghe show that he was going to be a 40-goal scorer in Tampa? No, right? So you can't know what was going to happen if you didn't allow it to happen. The only way you know what's going to happen is after it's happened. And then you look and you say, I guess that's what happened. So, I'm right now of the mindset, I don't want to get rid of Sam Miscavige. I don't want to get rid of Sordif until and unless we know we have the 9 guys that we want moving forward for the most part locked up, because otherwise that's their spot. You know what I mean? In my opinion. And look, I'm happy Tippett did what he's doing. You know what I mean? It goes both ways. Like Lawson Krause never played a game for us, right? But there's no way, even when we drafted him and what we thought was, nobody would have guessed he was going to be, a 25 whatever goal scorer. You know what I mean? Nobody thought he was even really going to be that kind of player. And so, you can't extrapolate it all out too much. I don't worry about that. I just only think about what I see in a player, what I think, I see in his potential, and whether or not I want to, move on from him or not. And, in terms of, with the Tippett thing is more about not wanting to move on from Sam Miscavige and Sordif so soon when they really haven't had much of an opportunity. And you can see on the horizon, in 3 years, 4 years, when those guys would be closing in on being in their prime, you can see where we're going to have some age/cap issues. And I'd just like to see it for once be filled with our young homegrown players, rather than we blew those guys out the building and now we got to get free agents and whatnot in.
You mentioned cap issues. That's actually another thing I wanted to get to. I do a lot of future casting, or I do a lot of forecasting when I, see things or do research. And I've got a feeling that, in the next probably 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, many of the guys we have now could be gone. Now, to my knowledge, Tkachuk's still going to be here, right? Because he's on contract, or he's under contract for the next, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. I forget exactly his terms. So Tkachuk's going to be here. But, a lot of people have been talking about, or I think you may have talked about, was it like Ekblad and
Right.
I think Reinhart's the Reinhart situation we know about already. I can't remember who else, but there are some guys whose contracts are going to be coming up, or they're going to be expiring soon. And Zito's got to has a lot of decisions to make, and he wants to. I have a feeling that, I know I'm going to sound kind of negative here, but we're not going to do a full rebuild in the next few years, but I think it's going to be something that might be sort of close to it, and I don't mean that like in a bad way. It's just, this is the business. The NHL is a business. These things happen.
Right. Right. Last couple things here. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for the fiver. He says,
thank you, Frank.
He says Bennett was the first-round pick for Calgary. He did nothing. Now Calgary fans were regretting getting rid of him because of the success he's having here. And the last comment before we get ready to click off, because I gotta get these dogs some food. Mike said Tippett and Verhaeghe comparison is apples to oranges. Tippett was given ample opportunity in Florida and didn't fit, and they knew it. Verhaeghe did the same and Tampa had too much depth. Again, disagree, Mike. Tippett, both years that he played with the Panthers, was on a 15-goal pace. As a young player, moving all over the lineup without consistent line mates and without getting a lot of ice time. It's easy to extrapolate from a guy getting that little ice time that's on a 15-goal pace that he could be at least a 20 or a 25 goal scorer given the right opportunity and the right amount of ice time. I saw that. Nobody wants to talk about that. They say he didn't fit. He didn't fit. He didn't play. I don't agree with that. Both seasons he played 42 games. He didn't get a ton of ice time. and he was scoring goals at a 15-goal pace. At that age, you easily can extrapolate that out to what he is now. And I said that then. So it's not, this is not me playing the result. I said it then, I pounded it then, and I'll say the same thing now. Right? He played 40 something games with us the first season, and he played 40 something games with us the second season before we moved on from him. Both seasons, he was scoring goals at like a 12 to 15 goal pace as a very young player with good size that still needed to grow into himself. And I said it then, I'll still say it now. It was a mistake to move on from him, and differences of opinions are differences of opinions, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. That's what we're here to do. But my opinion is that I saw what kind of player he was going to be. Nobody really wanted to listen to me then, and some people don't like it now. It was a mistake. That's to me, that's the bottom line. And I'm not saying this directly to you, MJ, but it was a mistake. Giving up the first and Tippett for the rental of Giroux. You can't say we would or would have not known that we would have beaten Washington with or without Giroux. You wouldn't have known what Tippett would have done. You wouldn't have known what the chemistry would have been because you changed the chemistry of the team. So you can't say what would have been if you didn't just allow what would have been to happen. You can't do it that way. So, and Owen's speed. Exactly. So with that, we've done an hour, and I think I'm ready to go. I think I'm ready to go give the dogs some lunch. Kyle and I got to be live in less than 2 hours. So,
all right, sounds good.
Hey, MJ, that wasn't directed at you, MJ.
I know.
Just so we're clear. When you see the chat, you'll see what I was responding to.
Sounds good. Before we go here, I just want to say a quick thing. I'm reading your book. I'm about almost halfway through. It is a fantastic book so far. And I love reading the stories about your life and, your family and everything that's going on, your experience, watching the Dolphins and how you got into the Panthers and everything like that. It's a great book. For those who haven't bought the book already, I highly recommend buying it. I believe it's still on Amazon, right? So
yeah. It's there. I really appreciate that, MJ, and I appreciate everybody that's bought that. That was my summer. I told myself I was going to relax, and instead I sat in a chair for 8 hours a day and wrote. And then getting my mother and father to understand the pictures that I needed, because a lot of those pictures they had, it didn't happen overnight. We'll put it that way.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
All right, everybody. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Thank you for all the super chats and everything. It's all good discussions. I'm not mad or upset or anybody at anybody. I have a strong opinion about things, and that it's all good. It's all good. Now, ask me that again in 6 hours. If the Ravens don't beat the Chiefs and we have to have a Swifties Super Bowl, then I'm gonna be mad. Then there will be flames coming from all orifices. So we'll put it that way. So. All right, everybody.
For my bracket, just a quick thing. For my bracket, I've got Ravens and Niners in the Super Bowl. So hopefully we'll see.
I would like the Lions, but as long as it's not the Chiefs, I'll take whatever other formulation it needs to be that's not the Chiefs.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ross, for having me. Everybody have a great day. Thank you again.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.